it's Jessii Vee. So many of you guys were telling me how much you missed the It's Near You series. I haven't done that since October, I believe. So I thought that today we would continue. The current state we are on is Connecticut, so that's where we're going to be focusing on today. There's actually so much creepy stuff there. But before I get started, I just want to remind you guys the month is almost over already, which means that this background is going to be going out to one lucky winner. If you would like to enter to win this backdrop, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, so my Jessii Vee channel, turn on your notification bell, and then head over to my Instagram page, follow me there, and DM me the heart emoji color of your choice. My favorite one to use is the purple one. Anyways though, we're basically gonna just jump right into this. There's a lot to cover, so sit back and relax and fasten your seatbelts. So I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the state Connecticut and try and pair it up with something paranormal, my first thought is the Haunting in Connecticut movie. Now, this was a very popular movie that came out a while ago, and the reason it was so popular was because it was based on a true story. What happens in the movie actually happened to a real family that bought a house in Connecticut. The Snedeker family rented an old house in 1986 in Southington, Connecticut. So it was the parents, a daughter, and 3 sons. While they were exploring their new home, Carmen found strange items in the basement, and those strange items turned out to be tools that were used by morticians. And if you didn't know what that was, it's basically someone who has a job that entails taking care of a person's body after they have passed away to get them ready for the funeral. So as you can imagine, this family found out that their house used to be a funeral parlor, and soon after, their eldest son began seeing ghosts and terrifying visions. And these ghost experiences began to spread to the other family members in the house. There was this one time where the mother was mopping the floor in the house, and all of a sudden the water from the mop on the floor turned into blood. So they called the famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren to help them with their situation. Gotta pose. Now, what happens to this family just continues to get darker and darker, and actually a lot of the stuff that happened I can't even talk about on this channel. But if you want to know, a lot of it is in the movie, and you can find a lot of documentaries on that family and the house. But what's crazy is if you drive by the real house to this day, there are people who still choose to live there even after what happened. And I feel like you gotta be very, very brave to do that. And since we were just speaking about Ed and Lorraine Warren, they actually have a museum in Connecticut that holds a collection of the haunted objects they found over the years of their investigations. The real Annabelle doll is even there. They have so many artifacts in that museum, it would be like a whole other video to talk about. And I think I read somewhere online that they're actually going to be changing that museum location because of the unfortunate loss of Ed and Lorraine Warren. But I just wanted to bring that up because that was also a huge part of Connecticut. The next thing we're moving on to is a story about Midnight Mary. On October 15th, 1872, a 48-year-old woman named Mary Hart unexpectedly collapsed at noon in her New Haven home and died exactly 12 hours later at midnight. She was buried in the city's Evergreen Cemetery. Now, the next night her aunt had this very vivid and disturbing dream, and in this dream she had a vision that Mary had actually been buried alive. She was so sure that this dream was telling her the truth that she had Mary's coffin dug up out of the ground and opened just to make sure that she was okay. And to their horror, they found fingernail scratches all over the inside of the coffin. At least that's the legend. There's no real proof of that happening, but I did a whole other video about how people were often, unfortunately, buried alive just because healthcare wasn't very good back then. So if someone fainted for over 12 hours, they were like, oh, they're dead without really knowing for sure, which is horrible. So people say that Mary wanders around the cemetery at night, and if someone visits her grave at midnight, they will be doomed to a horrible death. Her gravestone reads, "The people shall be troubled at midnight and pass away," which is definitely very eerie and spooky to read. And Evergreen is still an open cemetery that people go to this day, but people are actually discouraged from walking around the cemetery at night, which is super creepy. The next thing we're gonna talk about is strange music that's heard at Gardiner Lake. Gardiner Lake is famous for a house that has sunk 30 feet under the water. So there is literally an intact full house under the water of this lake. People call it the ghost house. There are actually vintage postcards for this lake that shows a house sinking through the ice and underwater. The house was said to have sunk after the owners tried to move it across a frozen lake. A heavy house across a frozen lake. So obviously the ice broke while they were trying to move the house and it sunk 30 feet under the water. Now, the family was only able to get a few of their possessions out of the house before it fully sunk. So all of the heavy stuff and all the really important stuff like a piano went down underwater with the house. So to this day, fishermen on the lake claim to hear odd, faint piano music with no source. And everyone agrees that the melodies come from below the surface. And they say that if you hear the piano music, you have to get away as fast as you can. There's this legend that people will follow the music into the water and swim towards the house and then unfortunately drown, which is so creepy. So this piano music in the water is sort of like a hypnotism thing. So I think it would be terrifying if you were swimming there or on a boat and just suddenly heard this melody. The next thing is a phenomenon called the Dark Day. 3 centuries ago, on May 19th in 1780, a phenomenon happened where the sky turned completely black one morning. And for the past 200 years, scientists and historians have been completely baffled trying to figure out what actually caused this strange event. The Dark Day was filled with panic and confusion among residents of the Northeast. Thousands left their workplace and went to churches to pray, fearing that the end of the world was near. Children were even released from their schools, so it was like everyone sort of dropped everything and ran. I mean, imagine walking outside, it's like 9 in the morning, it's sunny out, you're watering your plants, and suddenly the sky turns pitch black within an instant. People thought that something horrible was about to happen. It was as if the morning suddenly jumped ahead to midnight. People said there was also this very strange smell in the air, and scum began to float in all the lakes and rivers. So people for years and years have been wondering, was it some sort of weird phenomenon that was natural? Was it something more sinister and paranormal? All we know is that something like this hasn't happened since. And the last thing we're gonna talk about is called the Mootis noises. For centuries in the town of Mootis, odd noises have been heard. Spooky rumblings that have been described as sounding like everything from thunder to trees falling to the earth itself belching. They don't know what causes them, where they originated from, but the people of this town have heard these noises for hundreds of years. And as you guys know, I have done so many other videos on my channel about weird noises that people hear all over the world, and it is possible that the earth itself does make weird noises. But in the 1980s, scientists officially declared the sounds to be the noises of shallow micro earthquakes. So I think people have kind of accepted this explanation, but some people still believe that it's something more than that. Anyways though guys, those are all of the creepy things we're gonna be talking about from Connecticut. Obviously there was so much more I could cover. I found like literally 23 different places I could have talked about, but that would make a super long video. So if I missed any really good ones, definitely comment about them down below. And if you want me to continue this It's Near You series, give this video a thumbs up and let me know. I will eventually get to your state, and then I'll be going to different countries around the world. Don't forget to enter to win for the background behind me, and I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!